From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California. This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
All right, welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and today we have Kerry Egeler. And Kerry is going to be talking to us about his entrepreneurial journey, his e-commerce journey, and some of the secrets of what's working in print on demand today. Welcome out to the show, Kerry.
Hey, Tyler, thanks so much for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not hard to get me to, be excited to talk about e-commerce. I love things like print on demand that allow people to get started without huge upfront costs. But before we go into like what you're doing now, let's go back to the beginning. When was the moment you first realized that you were an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh, man. I kind of feel like I've always had that entrepreneurial spark a little bit. But I felt like business was so like just out of reach. Like owning a business was so out of reach. You think about all the taxes and all the different things, the legalities of it, and then that responsibility and the weight of owning your own business. And I feel like I always had it in me that kind of need for it, but I thought it would never be possible. So
you went through the first part of your life with like dormant entrepreneurship. It was like there, just ready to come out. What was the catalyst that got you to finally take that leap?
Yeah, I was in retail. I was working in a cell phone company, cell phone sales. Moved up the corporate ladder pretty quickly and got into kind of a management role and really excelled at it. And I loved that job. I learned a ton. But one day, corporate security is a really big company. This corporate security team shows up at my store. They're like old school, like sheriffs and they're like, and now they work for this big company in corporate security, so they're intimidating, like FBI agents rolling up in there. And they did this whole security investigation into my store, and I ended up getting let go from the company. I had some employees doing some shady stuff, and I didn't know about it. I was in leadership, so I was held responsible.
Yep.
And so that was the moment, being fired, that I was like, well, okay, do I go back to what I've always done, or do I try something new? And that's been about 4 years. And having the online space to start up a business obviously has like revolutionized the way that we can start up businesses really quickly and start it up with a lot less money and all those advantages that come with online. So that's kind of how I got into online business.
So 4 years ago, you have a decent job, you get laid off from actions of others within your company. And instead of going back and just applying for other jobs, you decided to do your own thing. What was your first step? What was the first thing you're like, okay, here's what I'm going to do to make this a reality? Yeah,
it's really interesting because I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know anything about marketing, didn't know anything about Shopify or online business or any of these things. I really had no idea. And as I said earlier, I had no idea about owning a business. And so I had to just go to the only source or person that I knew that had any knowledge, and that was my brother-in-law. And luckily I had my brother-in-law that was already doing an online business thing, and he'd actually been kind of putting a bug in my ear for a couple of years, like, hey, you need to have a side hustle, you need to do something online. So I had no idea what to do, but I was like, he's probably the guy I should go to. And so I called him up like the day after I'd been let go or something, and I'm like, hey man, this is all happening, I'm thinking about maybe business stuff. He's like, come up to my office, let's talk about it. So that was like the first step, was like, who do I know that already knows a little bit about this, and go find them and pick their brain a little bit.
Awesome. So I love that. There's an old adage, it costs nothing to ask advice of a friend, right? And it's from The Richest Man in Babylon, about the idea of just like asking people who are ahead of you, for help. So your brother-in-law gives you some initial pointers, and the next day you made $1 million.
I wish.
So how did it actually go?
Yeah. So I think I'd probably gone up to his office about 3 times in the first like week or so. And it was one of those things where like, and I guess it's a little bit of encouragement for anybody listening that's maybe trying to get started with this stuff, is like, sometimes you have to be aggressive when you're in a tough spot, and you have to be, the better word is probably persistent. Yeah. And so even though I felt like I was annoying this guy, because he had a lot more success than me at the time, and it was like, I'm this guy who doesn't know anything. So I'm just like showing up at his office, day after day, trying to pull information out of him. Like every time he pulled his headphones off, it's like, hey, can I just get a minute of your time? But I was so persistent, and he saw that in me. Like he saw this dude's not going to give up. Like this dude's going to keep going. And I had a 1-year-old son at the time, family, and I had to pay the bills. My wife, we actually found out we were pregnant with our second child about a week after I was let go. So we were already in a tough spot, like instantly, just because the circumstances kept piling up. But what I did was after talking to him a little bit, he was like, here's what you need to do. I want you to bring me 3 ideas. Like, go back to your house, lock yourself away, just come up with 3 ideas, bring them back to me, and I'll tell you which one to do. And so that was kind of like the next thing. So I show up at his office. I got these 3 ideas. I lay them all out. I'm like, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And one of them was, I thought, maybe I could sell t-shirts. Maybe I'll start up a t-shirt business. And he looked at all of them, kind of talked them through with me, and he was like, do the t-shirt thing. Like, go do it. And so that's how I started into the t-shirt game. And so that was kind of the next step.
So you got started in t-shirts, and I love that, by the way. I love the 3 ideas thing. It's something I do a lot with people who are trying to figure things out or come up with something. It always shocks me how for some people it's really hard to come up with ideas, because like for me it's hard to limit the ideas, but that's just recognizing each of us have talents, right? So you come up with your 3 ideas. He helps you pick one. You're going to start a shirt business. Did you go find courses? Did you just start looking up? Was it just trial and error? What did you do to get your first t-shirt business launched?
I knew I wanted to do online. I knew I wanted to do t-shirts. I kind of had an idea of what kind of things I wanted to put on the t-shirts. And he kind of sent me in the right direction, was like, oh, there's this thing called Shopify. That's where you want to look. And one of the things that I think was really important about that time, and like one of the reasons I had so much struggle in getting started and really learning and getting it off the ground, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but he was always like, he was very much into like online courses and training and books and, coaching and that kind of thing. And he was, from the beginning, he was very stern with me, like, you need to get help. You need to get a course, get a mentor, get somebody to help you with this so that you can shorten the path and have success quicker. And I did not take that advice because I didn't have money, kind of the things that people struggle with. I didn't have the money to go invest in a course or a coach. And so I kind of just tried to figure it all out on my own. I knew like a little bit of Photoshop, very little. I had a little bit of bits and pieces, watched some YouTube videos, but I kind of figured out that, I needed to start a Shopify store, to sell t-shirts. I did not know there was something called print on demand, anything like that. So what I did, first version, I put up 3 t-shirts on a Shopify store, like the most basic free theme, store, really crappy logo, all the things. Put up three t-shirts that I found on AliExpress, drop shipping them from China, and that was like my very first online business venture. Was those 3 t-shirts from AliExpress, and he kind of taught me how to get like a little Facebook ad off the ground. This one little Facebook ad. Somehow, some way, like 1 or 2 days in, I made my first sale from this Facebook ad that I was running at like $3 a day or something, $5 a day. So I make a sale, and so my first like 3 or 4 sales were actually refunded because the t-shirt sizes were different. The shipping times were 6 to 8 weeks. Like, I didn't know that I needed to set expectations.
Yeah, it's fascinating when people get started and they do drop shipping from overseas, and they don't understand sizing and they don't understand that like material quality. It's a really fast way to get merchant accounts shut down if you don't have the business side of it set up. But from that, you learned at least the basics of getting a site up, the basics of getting a t-shirt sold. And then it sounds like you're like, okay, I need to do this differently, right? So is that where you uncovered the world of print on demand, or what was the next step for you?
Yeah, I had those kind of first orders kind of returned, but I think one of the things for anybody starting that is, I always am just like, man, this is what you need to do is you need to get those first sales under your belt, because that gives you so much confidence. Even with them being refunded, I mean, obviously that was discouraging, but I knew there was something there. I was like, I've got these t-shirts and I know what kind of designs that these people have bought. So there's got to be more people out there that will buy similar designs to this, something, but I have to figure out another way to fulfill. I can't ship from overseas. It's not going to work because of the refunds. So I was on the hunt for what I was going to do. I knew I could get sales now. I had that confidence, but I needed a different way to fulfill. So I just started scouring the internet, for anything I could find, contemplated whether I should print my own shirts, but I didn't really have my own designs yet. I was just using these designs that were from overseas. So I'd have designs developed, all that kind of stuff. And happened to just stumble upon.
Sorry, real quick. Had you picked a niche, or were you just like finding random designs?
Yeah, I picked a niche, and I found designs that were kind of fit with those niche on AliExpress. And so, anyways, I stumbled across print on demand, and I was like, "This is unbelievable!" Like the way that print on demand works, not having to have inventory, all that kind of stuff. I thought it was unbelievable, and so I just started getting designs done like crazy, getting as many products up as I could, and it started to become a real business as opposed to just having these 3 T-shirts up on my website.
Awesome. So I mean, yeah. So now you moved to having your own designs. You moved to having realistic timeline fulfillment, right, through print on demand.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize you're like, okay, this might actually be a business. This might actually be able to provide some income and be successful?
It's really wild, but like within the first 3 months, the business kind of scaled. Like I was able to scale it up to about $30,000 in a month within the first 3 months, kind of after switching to print on demand. It just kind of took off. And basically, so that's when I knew like this could be real. I wasn't bringing home like crazy profit margins or anything like that, but I obviously I sold a lot of T-shirts in those first 3 months, and it kind of kept doubling. I think the first month I did 4,000. Second month it went to 9, and then the third month is when it went to 30. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like super real. And that's the point where it just crashed.
Oh, man.
I was like, after that third month, it literally just fell off a cliff.
Not the direction I thought you were going with that. Totally got me on that there. Yeah. So, okay. Well, there's 2 things that we're going to address. One, we're going to address why the crash and what you did to overcome it. But also, you brought something up that I think that's really important. A lot of people hear $30,000 in sales in a print on demand store and they're like, man, you must be making a ton of money. Well, you've got the ad cost, you got the fulfillment cost, you got the cost of the few refunds and things that are happening, even if it's not as crazy as China.
Yeah.
What do you typically say is a realistic margin for someone doing around 30K a month on print on demand shirts?
Yeah. If if you're really, really focused on, and it's a whole nother subject that I get really passionate about. If you really, really focus on the upsells, on the back end systems, email marketing, those kind of things that increase profit margins and get customers a lot cheaper and are not reliant upon strictly Facebook ads, Instagram ads, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You can get to 35%, 40% margins, that high. And that takes time, over time.
At the beginning, while you don't have the secondary purchase, you don't have the lifetime value figured out. Yeah. Most of your purchases are coming at acquisition level. And so margins can be 0 to like 10 to 15% usually.
Yeah. 10, 15%. Right? Yeah, definitely. Somewhere in that range.
So, and it's tough. People are like, man, that's doing $30,000 in sales and making somewhere between 0 and 5K. Like, is that really worth the risk? And I always say the big play is if you keep doing that and you compound every time you're acquiring $30,000 in clients, you're getting them profitably. Yes. Well, now you have the email marketing and the secondary purchases that have the higher margins, right? Mm-hmm. And so, so what happened? What you went 0 to 30K, things were going amazing. What cliff what happened?
Yeah, it just kind of fell apart. Like the ads were not profitable. They just became fatigued, and it was like I was solely relying upon Facebook and Instagram ads. I hadn't focused on building my list. I didn't know any of that stuff, and that's why I kind of said earlier, it was like, my mentor was kind of pushing me to go get a course, just follow somebody's path as opposed to trying to figure it out on your own. And I was just trying to ride the wave of like, oh my gosh, these Facebook ads are taking off. So I'm just going to keep scaling them. But I wasn't doing any of the things to really build my business for long term. And so when the ads didn't work, I had no idea what to do. And so, when I say fell off a cliff, I mean the next month it was down to like 5,000-6,000 in sales, which is crazy, pretty crazy drop off.
Well, so it's pretty crazy, right? If you're let's say that you have $5 of profit margin and it's costing you $4 to acquire a customer. Well, you can spend a lot of money, right? But if you're $5 of profit margin and you're costing $6 to acquire a customer, you can't keep spending, right? Unless you've got a huge war chest to say, oh, we're making money on the next purchase. So it's amazing how $1 or $2 can make a huge difference in whether a company's growing or not? And it sounds like that was what happened. Like the ads just didn't work quite as well. So you slowed down but you didn't give up.
Didn't give up. Yeah.
Okay. So you scaled down to, you're doing less revenue. You still have that same site 4 years later?
Yeah, I do.
How's it doing now?
It's doing good. It's doing good. You know, a lot of my time is focused on helping others kind of duplicate this. And that's, you know, I have a program called Shirt School. But yeah, I mean, we still run it. It still does well. And the cool part is like, you know, the list has grown so big. You know, all the different things, the text message marketing, the messenger marketing, the email marketing. And there really is just a point where, you know, it all kind of snowballs where you can shift. You maybe don't have to spend as much in ads to hit the same numbers, you know, and don't have to spend as much on the front end, and you can focus on that back end, and you can still always pull in consistent sales because building relationships with your customers, you know, using the email marketing, which doesn't cost hardly anything, and so many other tools at your disposal. So, you know, it's pretty cool to still see it still producing, you know, so many years later.
I love that. What is one of the number one mistakes that people make when they get into print on demand?
Yeah, you know, the one that comes to mind is that we're kind of talking about. They focus too much on the front end, and I think one of the reasons for that, and I guess what I mean by that is they're super focused on, you know, how much does my ad cost and how much profit am I getting out of the first sale, and they're most of the time they're selling one T-shirt or one product. They're not bundling. They're not doing upsells. They're not building their email list. They're not doing anything like that, and they focus on the front end. And I think of one of the reasons for that is, you know, years ago, kind of when I got into it, was kind of the Teespring craze. You know, I don't know if you remember that, but it was like, you know, everybody's just popping up a Teespring T-shirt, running Facebook ads, and supposedly people are becoming bajillionaires from that. And in reality, they're selling really high volume with, you know, $1, $2, $5 margins maybe. And that's a fly-by-night strategy. That's not the path to owning a real successful, profitable business. And so, you know, that's the number one mistake I think people make. They get in there, they just want to run some ads and just convert these sales of like one T-shirt at a time. And that's just a very hard road to take.
Yeah, I think being in any business, being just front end focused without understanding the longer time and really the lifetime value, right? Absolutely. That is a major issue in a lot of e-commerce brands and businesses in general. What is you have Shirt School where you educate and you teach people and help them, you know, move forward. What are some of the big things that you teach so that people can move faster and make smarter choices, like as they grow their brand?
Yeah. We have a 3-part system at Shirt School. It's kind of the 3 biggest keys to having a successful and kind of a long-term sustainable brand. Number 1 is you got to have good designs. You know, that's kind of the foundation for everything. If you don't have a good design on your T-shirt, it's like nobody's going to buy it, no matter how good your marketing is. The number two step is, I call it an automated sales machine, or an ASM. And what that is really an optimized store that does all the things that we're talking about, that doesn't just sell you one product at a time, but it's structured in a way to sell multiple products at a time, to upsell, to increase that average order value. And then on the back end, to have that follow-up, email, retargeting, SMS, those kind of things. And that, I call that an automated sales machine. And the last key of our Shirt School system is just traffic. You got to be able to drive traffic into that machine in order to get sales and build the list and all that kind of stuff. So those are kind of the 3 parts that we teach. And we go obviously really in depth on how to design yourself, or how to outsource your designs, how to build out a Shopify store, what print on demand to use. I mean, all the different things, and then numerous different marketing strategies and stuff like that. So
awesome. Yeah, I think it's amazing how I don't care what business it is, right? You have to have a product that people actually like. You have to have something interesting, right? So for you, good designs. Because most T-shirts are more or less the same, especially on print on demand. You can either go the tri-blend or you can go the cotton, right? Like it's like, there might be a few brands, but more or less it's a couple of options. So it comes down, people aren't buying it because it's a tri-blend shirt. They're buying it for the design. That's the unique product. Then you've got automated sales machine, which I love, helping, you know, making the store increase the average order value, all of those things, be optimized for that. And lifetime value, huge proponent of all of that. traffic, that seems to be the big challenge for a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people that can come up with ideas and get something started, but then it just sits there. So you guys teach your students actually how to get the first round of traffic and start to get, the right eyeballs on their store?
Yeah. We teach a few different like organic strategies, and then we also teach some paid strategies. And we love Facebook and Instagram ads. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those. So I don't want to sound like I'm dogging them, but it's all about using them the right way, having the right expectations. And then on the organic side, I really believe in today's world, especially with everything we've been through in recent times, all the craziness, people are really craving a relationship. And so it all comes back to building a relationship with your customers, especially on the organic side, genuinely connecting with them before you attempt to sell them something.
Yeah.
And so that's a big portion at a high level of what we teach on the organic side about how to build relationships with people, how to find those micro influencers and get into their world. And then on the paid side, obviously Facebook, Instagram ads. We also talk some about Pinterest ads and TikTok ads and different stuff like that. So
I love it, man. What's going on in your business as you now, you've got your shirt business, you've got your shirt school business, right? What as you've been growing over these past couple of years, what are some challenges that you've faced as now you're managing two companies, and what'd you do to overcome those?
Yeah, man, there's been a lot of challenges for sure. I think it's as you grow, it's new levels, new devils, right? Like it's like there's always more as you grow, and so I'd say in the last year and a half, it's been all about building out my team. It's been hiring people, figuring out if I want that to be remote or be in an office with me. And we have an office here in Oklahoma, and so I have a few employees here in the office now. And then trying to train them and figure out what their strengths are, and then having to let people go. And it's like there's so much. And so honestly, the number one thing that I would say is helping me currently and has helped me get through that kind of stuff is having a mastermind, a coach, being part of programs like that where I have people to go to that have been there before me. And then there's also people in those programs that I can help pull up. And so it's having that community, having somebody to go back to, a coach, a community, ask questions, bounce ideas off of, say, hey, I'm going through this thing hiring employees. It's tough. You've been through it. Can you answer some of my questions around that? And so that's been huge for me, just being a part of masterminds, coaching programs for myself.
I think that's interesting because that was one of your brother-in-law's early pieces of advice was get a course or a mentor.
Yep.
And you're like, I can't afford it yet. So I'm going to just figure it out. Right. But now that you can, right now that there's some revenue coming in, one of the first things you did was go get, courses, mentors, masterminds, that sort of thing. And that's how we connected. So, that I love that kind of stuff too. I think there's no shortage of information out there. But connection and being able to like share like the tricks of the trade. It's amazing how much that can accelerate growth, right? And just taking shortcuts.
Man, it's so interesting because people underestimate, like you think you get in a course or a coaching or a mastermind to like get the information, but it's you build relationships with people that are, like I said, above you, below you, at your level, and you learn so much, get so much opportunity through that, and so there are so many ancillary benefits of being a part of programs like that.
For sure. You've got that sign behind you that says, take imperfect action. What does that mantra mean to you?
And that is the motto for everything that I do, everything that I teach. That's been my, I feel like that's been the road that I've taken to the success that I've had is not procrastinating, not waiting for it to be perfect, but going right now. Sometimes you got to launch before you're ready. And the quote is from Harry S. Truman. He said, imperfect action trumps perfect inaction every time. And so, that's just become the motto for my community. I mean, I say it all the time, try to get it into people's mind because even with a small t-shirt business, people will, sit there for years on the same idea and not do it. And it's like, you realize with print on demand, you can throw up a few designs and be ready in a day, So I really believe we got to get out there and go.
I am shocked at how many businesses are stalled because they're like, well, what if it's not perfect? What if the market's not going to receive it? So I always tell people, I was like, hey, just call it beta. For some reason, calling it a beta launch allows them to like remove the pressure of it being perfect. Because my saying is very similar. It's done is better than perfect. I quote that a lot. It's not my saying, but same concept. You can't wait for perfection or you're never going to get anything launched. And your version of perfect might be different than what the market's version of perfect is anyways. So I always say, let the market figure it out. All right. So Kerry, first things, want people to go find you at kerryegeler.com. You can also find it at joinkerry.com. For me, Kerry, business is great, but it's about building the life that you love. What's one item on your personal, not business, your personal bucket list you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
You mean like something I want to buy?
Buy, have, do, go, travel, whatever.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. I think the next thing that I want to do, I guess financially, I want to start investing in real estate, and so that's been something I've been looking into. That's in the more near future rather than a long ways out. But I think that it's one of those ways to bring in more passive income, and so that's kind of something I'm looking at from a financial perspective. So everyone should please go find Kerry. He's also on Instagram. You can find him there at Kerry Egeler. And I'll make sure if you're listening, if you're on the website, I'll link everything. And wherever you're listening from, my Biz Ninjas, it's your turn to go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.